Hello and welcome to Antiques for Everyone. My name's Simon and I've been an auctioneer and valuer for over 25 years, and during that time I've handled many thousands of items, met lots of interesting collectors within the antiques world, and we thought it would be really interesting to do a series of videos on different subjects. It could be pottery or porcelain, collectibles, various areas, little bits of information for people out there so that they can learn a little bit about the antiques world. So today we've started with ceramics, and we're starting with Studio Pottery, an area that I've been interested in for many years. What I love about Studio Pottery is the fact that you are handling items that have been made by individual people, and that always strikes me as amazing. It's not items made by a factory where they've made tens of thousands of items. These are individual items made by potters, often with their own marks, and they've been made by them. And I always think that's a really interesting thing. Now with Studio Pottery, the origins start in the sort of late 19th century with a firm called Martin Brothers. They produced a lot of individual and interesting items, including wally birds and grotesque animals. But the real father figure of Studio Pottery was a chap called Bernard Leach. Now he went to Japan, he studied how they made ceramics there. He came back to the UK and during the 1920s, 1930s, established a pottery at St Ives, which you can still visit. It's still very much an operational pottery down there and well worth a visit. And he established a pottery down there making studio ceramics, and many people that he trained then went on to become great potters in their own right. So there's a real lineage that follows from Bernard Leach. And I've brought a few things along to show you today, just to give you a little bit of a flavour. Now the first item actually has a link with Bernard Leach. This is made by a chap called Richard Batterham. He trained under Bernard Leach before becoming a very famous potter in his own right, based mostly in Dorset in the southwest. And this is what he would call a pedestal-footed bowl. It's made of a stoneware, and you can see underneath that sort of reddy coloured base that it's made of, stoneware body. So it's quite heavy. Stoneware is quite a heavy material. And he has coloured it with, he's got a lovely sort of celadon green glaze and a little bit of indented decoration, which you can see inside the bowl. You can see it there as we zoom in. And also on the outside, where when the clay is wet, he's made little indentations to the bowl. Now there's no marks underneath, as you can see, and whilst most studio potters are very good at marking their own items, he always said that you should know instinctively it was something made by him. That he was obviously quite proud of the items that he made. He said he didn't need to mark his items because you would know it's by him. And this is a very recognisable shape for Richard Batterham. He's a very popular and collectible potter. He died a couple of years ago. And this bowl is probably worth perhaps sort of 200 to 300 in auction these days, something in that sort of region. So that's the first item I wanted to show you. The second item I've brought along to show you, also made by a potter in Dorset in the southwest of England, made by a chap called Alan Wallwork. He was very interested in creating natural shapes and quite sculptural in the way that he made items. And this is what's known as a split form vessel. It's quite a popular thing that he made, and he would make things like seed pods and pebbles, natural things in the environment that he would copy. And I've always really liked his work. He's very expensive to buy, but I did manage to get this a few years ago, a small piece by him. And again, this is made of stoneware. And if we just zoom in a minute, I'll show you that this one is marked. This has got an AW mark for Alan Wallwork on the base, so nice and clearly marked. And I really like the texture and the shape of the items that he produced. Really, really interesting potter. And again, very collectible. This is only a small item. This is probably only worth perhaps 100, 150 in auction at the moment, something in that sort of region. But some of his larger pieces can make very large sums. And actually, if you look at pottery in general, one of the great things about studio ceramics is you can collect on almost any budget. It might be something that you've picked up from a charity shop for a few pounds. It might be something for a few £100. And then there are items made by artists like Lucy Ree and Hans Koper, Magdalene Ondondo, who can make tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of pounds. So there's items that you can buy on almost any budget. And actually a few years ago, I sold a vase by Magdalene Ondondo, which was less than 20 years old, and it made around £90,000 in auction plus commission. So enormous amounts for those people at that end. But you can collect at all sorts of levels, which is really interesting. As a big contrast to that, this actually comes under the umbrella of Studio Ceramics, but actually this is made of porcelain. So the previous two that we saw, made of a stoneware, a pottery body, but this is a porcelain body. This is made by an artist called Suzanne Bergne. And if I just show you underneath, and we'll just zoom in to show you, you can see the sort of white colour of the porcelain underneath and her name. And there's a little impressed mark just above the base. And what really struck me when I first saw this was the amazing colours. And people often say with Studio Ceramics, oh, it's quite drab, the colours are quite dark. And in some cases that is the case. But in something like this, she's used all sorts of amazing colours. We've got whites, we've got sort of dusky pinks, we've got greens. And again, it's a lovely sort of sculptural shape. Now, she's not an artist that has as much of a track record as Alan Wallwork, or indeed to Richard Batterham that we just looked at, but I think somebody that might in the future become more collectible. I think I paid around about £80 for this at the time, so not a huge amount of money, and I really liked it. And that's another important aspect of things. When you're buying items, you buy things because you like them. Don't go in thinking, I'm going to buy this because I think it's a good investment and it might be, you know, a good thing to buy for the future. Buy something that you like because it's, you know, it gives you a lot of pleasure. If in 10 or 20 years time that item has gone up radically in price, well, that's great. But it's ultimately you should buy things because you like them and get a lot of enjoyment out of them. And the final couple of things I've brought along to show you, which you can see just behind me. This is made by a lady called Amanda Popham. She's based on the Dorset-Devon border in the southwest, and her items are very individual. As soon as you see these items, you know instinctively it's made by her. And she did a lot of figural pieces. They can be jugs or vases, often human type figures, sometimes animals, including cats. She did a huge variety. She was commissioned by Liberties for many years to sell things. So she built up quite a track record with collectors, with people buying from Liberties and from exhibitions that she did. So these aren't terribly old in Studio Pottery terms, but have some collectability. And the other great thing about her is that she marks her items, and we'll just let you zoom in there. So she always marks her name and the date on the back of her items, and I'll just do that with the other piece as well. So it's unmistakably by her and nicely signed for anybody looking to collect them. And I've always really liked her work and managed to acquire 2 or 3 bits over the years. These pieces are probably worth maybe a couple of £100 each now, something in that sort of region. But I think she is a potter that will, over time, increase in value. I think she's going to be a very, very popular artist. She is now, but I think she will be in the future as well. So I hope that's been interesting, looking at Studio Pottery. If you like the video, please like and subscribe, and leave any comments or questions. We'll answer those for you. And we'll continue to do a series of videos every few days on different areas, and we hope you enjoy them and you learn from them.